The following portion of Daytime Tri-Cities is sponsored by AFI, your financial North Star.
When it comes to investing and managing our money, we all need to keep in mind that there can be both good and bad outcomes. And that is the topic we are talking with AFI this morning. And we want to welcome Peter Raber, president of AFI, to Daytime Tri-Cities. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. How are you?
Let's talk about this because, as with all things in life, there are good and bad things. And it's the same with investing our money.
Absolutely. And it's really important to know that going in because it's really hard once we get into the middle of things to realize, oh, my account's down, or I don't have the money in the bank that I thought I did, and knowing where your money needs to be so that your plans can still take place. So if you were planning on buying a house next year and the market drops 20%, you're kind of in trouble.
You may have to reevaluate.
Right.
And when you talk about reevaluation and keeping on top of things, is it really important that we keep on top of what's happening with the stock market?
You know, from a day-to-day perspective, probably not as much as people would believe. What's more important when we're working with people is to know what's happening day-to-day in their lives and how will that affect what they need to do. The market's moving so fast now, especially with electronic trading, and I often talk with people that the numbers now don't seem quite as connected to what we were used to. So if it used to be that a big market day was the Dow Jones moving up or down 100 points. And even here in this week, we've had down 1,000, up 800, down 1,000, up 700. So those are the type of moves that they seem a little disconnected. But if we have the right mix, then we get less exposure to all that volatility. So knowing that we can weather those storms going in is very important.
You mentioned there those drastic, that roller coaster ride that the stock market has been on.
Right.
How do you deal on a day-to-day basis? How do you deal with those changing market values?
I think the most important thing is to have a plan in place beforehand that we can be able to go back and look and say, has anything fundamentally changed for the individual?
Right.
And allow that to do what it's going to do. So if we know that 3, 5, or I'm retiring in 20 years, today's movement doesn't matter near as much. And we want to make sure that we structure things so that as you get all this volatility, you're not in trouble. And one of the things that we look at very heavily is how much money am I going to need to pull from my accounts in the next 3 years. And so if it's going to be half the account, then that shouldn't be in the stock market anyway, and then whatever happens up on Wall Street happens. But if I've got this big, long, runway, it might be a time to buy just because we can take advantage of that. So it's having the right plan in place up front so that we don't get scared, because that's normally the biggest mistake most investors make, is allowing emotions to dictate an early sell or not to be able to ride through, and that can be a big problem.
And making a change in your investments is a big deal.
Right.
And you have to take a lot into consideration when you make those changes, correct?
Absolutely. And same thing, earlier the better. So when we see things happen, the 2008 Great Recession, I guess is what we want to call it, a financial crisis, and most recently with the COVID sell-off in March of 2020, if you're trying to make the decision then, it's really tough because you have no clarity. A lot of times we'll say, investors don't have a crystal ball, or you can't, it's a roll of the dice. There used to be a famous expression that a monkey throwing darts at a board could pick stocks as well. But if you have the right plan in place, you're not in the position of making those hard decisions. But if you have to make them, it's important to go through every kind of scenario that you could go through, from tax to growth to everything else.
Age is a huge component when you're thinking about this. Whatever stage in life you are, you need to have an investment plan.
Absolutely. So if we look at the stock market, we've never had a 12-year period where the stock market's been negative. We've never had, I won't say never, but it's a 90+% chance at a 6-year period or longer. So as you're moving towards retirement, you're moving less and less in those assets, because then we have that kind of, I won't say guarantee because that's not a word that anybody can throw out, but you have much more clarity that, okay, I'm 5 years from retirement, probably still going to have a positive market, but not guaranteed. 10 years, 20 years, we've never had periods of time that we've had negative returns. So you've got the ability to have that extra risk.
All right. Peter Raber, thank you so much for stopping by today.
Thank you.
Great information. I learned a lot there. I really did, and I hope our viewers did as well. AFI Advisors, they are located right there at 4 Henry Drive, Suite 305 in Kingsport, Tennessee. They would love to hear from you. Give them a call. Check out their website as well if you've got questions about investing.
The preceding portion of Daytime Tri-Cities is sponsored by AFI, your financial North Star.